I'm Nico Verresen, the founder of Perform with Pleasure, and I just did an amazing interview with the HackCess Show. In it, you're gonna learn how you can take stress and intense emotions and turn that into your resource, into something that doesn't hinder you, but it actually helps you make your life much more fulfilling and enjoyable. For example, the pleasure scan, and you can sit. If you want to, we can do it now.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do one.
So,
Hi, and welcome to the HackCess Show. It's the place where you can find life hacks on how to become the best version of yourself and achieve your goals. We show you how to walk the talk from successful people. And today we have Nico here. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
yeah, happy to be here, man. I love helping people to step into whatever is possible for them, you know. So yeah.
So, can you give us a quick overview of what you do, just for the viewers?
So after a like 16-year career as a fighter, professional fighter, and work on the university as a well-being researcher, I really combine the two. So I help people to enjoy their amazing life while they're building it.
Mm.
And how do I do that? I focus on three main parts. The first part is I help people to turn stress and intense emotions into their competitive advantage.
Mm.
How you can leverage the positive effects of that and how you can bring more meaning to your life. That's step one. Second is I'll teach people how to make pleasure a priority. And I will teach you, I will give you more information about what I mean by that and how important it is to have long term success
Mm.
and the biological reasons for that. And then last but not least, for me, important part of my work is I help people to build to build meaningful relationships and to really see their relationships as people growing machines.
Mm.
Because if you learn how to hold on to yourself, learn to express your desires and your boundaries in intimate relationships, you can do it everywhere. So that's in short what I do.
Okay, awesome. I'm curious, like, how do you get people to enjoy their life when they have like long-term goals? Let's say like they want a house, they want to live, I don't know, like in a mansion, and right now they're living with like 5 roommates, try to save every bucks. So like, how do you make sure like people enjoy themselves and still work towards their goals, you know?
Hmm. Well, for me, it's like I really love growth, and I think a lot of people love growth, but they lose track of that.
Mm.
So, for example, I noticed at a certain moment I lost the real joy when I was a fighter because
Mm.
I was starting to grind. I believed in grinding it. I worked myself to overtraining time and time again
Mm.
until the age of 30. I had two retinal detachments. 7 surgeries later, I had to stop. And so I did not step into my fullest potential. Why? Because I didn't enjoy the process enough.
Mm.
Because I was just grinding it and just pushing. I really didn't pay enough attention to my body and to my needs. And so, an important thing for people to do that is when they're stepping into, when they're, for example, living together with five other people,
Mm.
it can be quite challenging. But then every time you stress, it's really important to see, okay, why do I care? Because to me, stress and intense emotions are a window into what is important to us.
Mm.
So, for example, suppose in a certain moment somebody makes everything dirty, and you get really irritated.
Mm.
But then you think, okay, why do I care? Do I? And then the second question is, yeah, because I like it clean. Okay. Then the second question is, yeah, but is it my value? Is it something that I think is valuable, is important, or is
Mm.
it something that somebody else gave me when I was younger, and I actually don't care about when I really think about it?
Mm.
This creates a lot of insight, you know. So that's one thing where you can learn. I think it's very essential for sure if you live together with five people to learn how to see all these interactions with all those peoples and all these conflicts
Mm.
as great opportunities to deepen your self-knowledge, to deepen your communication skills,
Mhm.
and to become much more resilient
Mm.
for later in life. Yeah. So I think that's a very important thing. That's one thing. Then second thing, well, how to enjoy. Well, you have to learn how to leverage your body.
Mm.
So your nervous system has three as an adaptation system, and your adaptation system has three components. First is stress, which
Mhm.
is normal and healthy, but
Okay.
we have to go into it
Yeah.
later. Pleasure, the pleasure hormones, endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine.
Mm.
And these are very important. That's why I say you have to make pleasure a priority because they buffer your body against overactivation.
Mm.
So we have cortisol, we have adrenaline, and this is needed, because without cortisol you wouldn't even be able to leave your bed. That's what happens with people in burnout. It's just it's depleted. So to avoid that, to avoid your body to freeze and your nerves system to freeze, you need to really make pleasure a priority. And how can you do that? Well, first of all, uh, we always have tasks that we hate. Like I really despise bookkeeping. It's really not my thing. So what do? Well, I chop it up in little small 5-minute bits, and I disperse it. I do 3 a day. And but then afterwards, I always take a moment. After 5 minutes, I stop to the side. But after that, I really say, you know what? I did that. And what that does, so every time after you did a task, whether it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour and a half, it's really important to acknowledge the work you did and the progress, because what that does, that releases dopamine. So you can control it. And what that does is lowers your activation levels. It calms your nervous system down. That's one thing. And then what I like to do, for example, not after 5 minutes, but after a 20 or a 90-minute chunk, I do that. I acknowledge my progress. And then the second part is, well, then I do what I call the pleasure scan, which is like a body scan, but you look for pleasure. Classical body scan is boring. No. See how much pleasure you can find. And because what happens is, the more you do that, the more you tell your brain, like the search dog of your brain, and the singulate, I forgot the name in the moment, but that brain uh, structure is responsible for what you will notice. So if you consciously start every hour or every 20 minutes or every 45 minutes, depending on how long you can concentrate, it tells your body that you have to look, that pleasure is important. And so that's really powerful. When I use this with my clients, it's so strong. And you just need a minute. So that's the part. Other kinds of pleasure is everything that fulfills you. So to me, there's a big difference between pleasure and entertainment. So pleasure is everything that fills up your cup. It can make you feel tired, but afterwards you feel fulfilled. Next day you have more energy. Entertainment is everything that distracts you from life. And in the moment it can be very fun, but afterwards you feel depleted. I always say you can look at work. You can use work as pleasure, where even if it in the moment is not so nice, afterwards you're like, fuck yeah, beautiful. I'm building my life. Or you do something that really fulfills you. For example, when I'm doing hypnosis, well, first of all, I go deep myself, so it's like my personal meditation on steroids. It's lucky. But also then, you can see the effects. They are so powerful with my clients, and that is really fulfilling. Afterwards, I'm just vibing. So that's one. But then you can also use work as entertainment, and a lot of people that are really successful do that. And because people always say, yeah, you have to rewire your self-limiting beliefs because then you're going to be successful. And no, not necessarily. I know a lot of people really successful on the surface, have a lot of money, they have it all. And inside they feel empty and horrible because they have to prove time and time again to themselves and to the world how wonderful they are. And so every moment that they fail, they think I'm a failure. Every time they win, they start to be boastful because it's like a reflected sense of self. And so in that way you see, and that's what you see a lot when people talk about being lonely at the top, that's what it's about. So what happens is they have focus on only one part of your nervous system. So you have stress, and then you need dopamine so you can grind longer, so and endorphin, so you can leverage that a bit. But if you keep on doing that, it gets depleted. Your dopamine is like when people take drugs, afterwards they have very often come down because it's all done. Same thing happens. So what happens then? They push, and can do much more than many other people because they have that motivation. They have to prove themselves. They have no choice. But then every time they fear they fail, it's like this emotional roller coaster, But then you come at the top. I work with several world champions, and then some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they come at the top and they are really, really depressed because they have to reach the absolute summit, the peak. And now what? because they were not enjoying the process.
Mm.
So when you learn to really embrace the process and you learn to enjoy that, well, every step,
Mm.
every step on the way, and really you'll start to go to, it's like, for me, it's not my intention. In the morning, I say, how can I enjoy my day more?
Mm.
And then you can really start to do that.
Mm.
And then the next level is then you can, well, weapon yourself against big adversity and against trauma even.
Mm.
There's like this entire research field that is talking about post-traumatic growth. It's super interesting.
Mm.
Where certain people, after they went through, for example, something as extreme as violent rape, all of a sudden it's like a light bulb goes on, and all of a sudden they realize how precious their life is.
Mm.
They live much more fully. They go full for their dreams. It's rare, but it happens.
Mm.
Yeah. So, well, and I can carry on for 10 hours, but it has to be a bit of a conversation.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I love the idea of having that kind of, light bulb moment, something that makes you realize, hey, my life is precious. And for you, we spoke of, after your surgery, when you realize, okay, I'm not happy, and then you wanted to change something. Do you think that we need something like something negative to have a light bulb moment, or can we start the process that we spoke of just because we want something to get better?
Luckily, we humans are observational learners. Monkey see, monkey do. And so there is something that is called vicarious. You have two things. You have the negative, which is vicarious post-traumatic stress disorder. Have you heard of that?
No.
So, for example, with 9/11 attacks, the terrorist attacks, was something very interesting, because many of the people that had the most PTSD symptoms were people that were not there. They were the people that were watching the thing happening the entire day on television. So you can really get those lessons, get that shock, and suffer really from it. So you have vicarious post-traumatic stress. Now, the positive thing is that the reverse is true too. So that's why I really love people to look for what I call hero stories. And for me, a hero story is every story about somebody that went through deep adversity or intense stress, and they didn't only survive, but they thrived, not despite, but because of what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that moment, it opens the door in your mind, in your subconscious mind, like, wow, like if they can do it, if they can really leverage this intense adversity to grow and to become, to make the life much more fulfilling, well, Jesus, then I might be able to do the same thing.
Mm.
And something small as that can make a big mindset shift. It's like the idea that stress is bad for you is horrible, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because it happens, you have stress, which is a normal action of your body. Your body, it's actually your body telling you, hey, pay attention. This is important for you. Or this is important for you. And that's why you have to ask the questions. Did I choose this? And then you can get into value work and stuff, but that's different. But when that happens, pay attention. But it just gives your body higher energy, a better ability to focus, a better ability to endure, and so release pleasure hormones. So stress is good. But the problem is then we get stressed, which is activation, and then we start to stress about stress. Oh no, I'm stressed. Then you get into that freak zone. Well, people that believe that stress is good, they called uh, research from, for example, Stanford. Alia Cram, she's a pioneer in this field. She studies the stress is enhancing mindset. And what she has found is that it has enormous benefits. For example, if you believe it says good, in longitudinal research, she has shown that people that believe it says good and have very high stress levels, even when they have stress about health or other very things that they can't do nothing about, they still live longer, healthier, and more happier lives and more successful lives than anybody else. So fantastic. And what happens in the body is also super interesting. So I don't know if you know the difference between a challenge response and a stress response, threat response in the body.
No, what is that?
Well, so you have two kinds of, well, you have many kinds of stress, but two main general classifications of stress. You have a threat, and a threat is something like, for example, you're a caveman, grunt, you picking some flowers, and all of a sudden there's a tiger there, saber-tooth tiger. You have no weapons, you're doomed. So what happens in that body? You can't run away, you can't flight, you can't fight. So your body freezes you.
Mhm.
So it's a bit like you like the lizard that plays dead, and literally you will play dead. You fall down. Why? Because then you have a small chance that the predator says, "Oh, this animal is sick. I'm not gonna eat it."
Mm.
Fucks off. If it would bite you, what happens in your body? Your veins constrict, and so when it bites you, you bleed out less fast, and so that gives you a little bit more time. And if you die, because that happens, you feel less because there's this muscular tension, and so it's a last resort action. So that's the threat. But of course it is adaptive. But in modern times our body, sometimes we face threats. For example, we lose our jobs, we can't do nothing about, or our partner is deadly sick. All of a sudden we get a threat response, and it's chronic. And so what happens then? Your veins are constricted, there's this constant tension, and then all the nutrients and the oxygen that can't go to the place where it needed.
Mhm.
High blood pressure, heart rates, respiratory diseases, intestinal problems, migraines, lower backache. Well, all the things that are classically related to stress.
Mm.
And it's true. Like I'm not saying that it's not true. No, like you can find this time and time again. However, you also have the challenge response. And the challenge response is literally what it is. You have a threat or a challenge, but you think you can handle it.
Mm.
There's a tiger there, but we are with my entire tribe. We all have weapons. We know how to do this. We have no carpet for our cave. Hey, so we go at it. You have to be sharp because it's a dangerous animal, But what happens in the body then? Well, then we start to flourish. So the veins open up, and what happens? The veins are open, but we have stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline in the body, or epinephrine in the mind, and then acetylcholine goes up because it helps to focus. So what happens? We're more focused. Our blood can go to all our cells much faster, so more food and more oxygen. So it optimizes us. But it goes even further than that. That's really interesting. So it also releases anabolic hormones. Hormones like DHEA, which is like the basic anabolic hormone which helps to create steroids and testosterone and stuff. But also neural growth factor, which helps us to create new brain connections.
Mm.
So it literally helps your body to flourish. Now, what is the most interesting thing is that when you believe that stress is good, no matter if you're faced with a threat or a challenge, what happens in your body? You have a challenge response. Even if something horrible happens. It's so fantastic, isn't it? So just that little mindset shift, that realization that stress is there to fucking help you.
Mm.
Well, perhaps edit that fuck out.
No, that's fine.
To help you in that moment, it literally becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
And then if you believe that stress is bad, you start to stress about stress, constriction.
Yeah.
Even when it's a challenge, you have constriction. So it's not that people. I read a post here. They like, yeah, calm people are more successful. No, that's nonsense. The people who are most successful and the most fulfilled are people who are not suppressing their anxiety, but they're embracing it. They're living with fullness. Because if you're gonna suppress your anxiety, if you're gonna suppress your frustration, you're gonna suppress your happiness too and your excitement. It's like you can suppress your feelings, but you can't suppress a part of your feelings. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's two sides of the same coin. And so then is so that's why I use the pleasure scan so much. Because I have a lot of clients that come to me with near burnout and chronic back pain, chronic headaches. Now, what is a very interesting thing is when you start to look for pleasure in that pain. It's not that the pain goes away, but all of a sudden you can feel that it's richer. That every moment we have different levels of pain and pleasure in our bodies. It's really interesting. And what happens then, and when you do this regularly, like every hour, you will start to notice in your body that there's a constant variability.
Mm.
So most people say, yeah, I suffer of migraines or I have chronic back pain. But that's a 0-1 situation. Now, when you start to notice those things and then write it down, you start to see, oh wow, in hour per hour it's changing, and that opens your mental in your body and in your nervous system, opens the door that you can get rid of it. And I've seen transformations, people that were suffering for years, that all of a sudden don't suffer of that pain anymore. And if they have the pain, they can handle it much better because they don't fight against it. They just embrace it and try to feel it.
Mm.
And they try to feel it. Why? Because it's your body trying to tell you something very often. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that. And yeah. But so that's the two things. So you have adrenaline, cortisol, acetylcholine, and then you have endorphins and dopamine. That's to push, to keep pushing and longer, and you can work for 20 hours without doubt. If you really do it like that, you take 20 minutes to 45 minutes of work, take a pause, acknowledge what all you did, dopamine rush, do the pleasure scan. And what you do with the pleasure scan, because you just say, okay, I did that, you win. It's like a micro win. And when you win, your body releases serotonin, which calms down your nervous system, and it also stimulates you to take more further forward action. It's really interesting. It's the alpha male or the alpha being hormone. And so what is so interesting is that that hormone alone will drive you forward. They did a research with two rats. So they had a game where two rats had to push each other out of the cage. And so they faked it. So they pushed one rat forward, much more with more force. Now what was interesting, in subsequent fights, this rat that won, he won time and time again. Why? Because the body was releasing serotonin, and there came this calmness, this intensity, this propensity to go forward, to drive forward. That's why people get into a win, like a long list of wins, and if you lose, you tend to have a long list of losses.
Yeah.
So it's that, and so, but then so that's why that system of really dividing your day up in parts and then acknowledging it and then enjoying your body in the here and now, because then when you do the pleasure scan, you release more serotonin, not only because you won, but also because serotonin is correlated and is like a feedback loop with being present in the here and now. So that's the two reward systems. So our adaptation system uses pleasure. Body uses pleasure because it wants to maximize the behaviors that help us survive and thrive. So that's why we have I call it the striving hormones that help us to focus outside in the future to get something that we don't have or to avoid something that we don't have. And that's the adrenaline, the cortisol, and acetylcholine, and then the pleasure hormones, dopamine and endorphins. But then you have also the being hormone, and then you have oxytocin. Because again, if there's a tiger there, I better look for support with my families, like it's the hugging hormone. So when what is interesting then, when we have connection with people around us, our activation lowers again. So together it all buffers. It's an equilibrium. It's really nice. And then after for example, we catch the mammoths, then we feast, and we feast together. We tell stories, we dance, we make sweet, sweet love, eat until we're fat, because that's how it was. Very often we didn't have that, and when we have a mammoth, it's a great feast. And so people are celebrating in the here and now. But what does that do? Like, first of all, you have the oxytocin of the people you connect with. Second of all, you have of course, serotonin, the dopamine, and all those other nice hormones from eating nutrient dense foods. And then the stories, where the connection gets even stronger. And we really are strengthening even that more serotonin because we're telling our hero stories. And then the children learn from observation. Again, post-traumatic or post-stress growth. And so that's the normal cycle. But these days, we're told from a very young age, and it has been going on for a long, long time, that stress is bad. And so you take this natural reaction of your body that is there to help us survive and to thrive, to help us to get to the top of our hierarchy because it helps us to survive in our genes. It takes that away because then we lock it and then we create threats from everything. Then everything becomes a threat because then even if something is a challenge, we think, oh, we have stress. Oh no, now I'm threatening my health, my relationship, my sexual prestation. It's true. Like, you know, a lot of my clients, they also have some, well, not a lot of my clients, but some of people that come to me, they also have some issues sexually in desire with desire. Because if your cortisol levels are chronically high, and that happens when you believe that stress is bad because then you stress about the stress, well then, yeah, that suppresses testosterone and progesterone. So, you know, like it's logical. So the answer is not to get rid of stress. The answer is to embrace stress.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like on a daily basis, like how does the pleasure scan work? You know, do you sit down in a specific area, like you close your eyes, you make sure it's quiet, or you just do like a quick, like 1 minute?
1 minute. Well, I also have like a masterclass that I just will release soon, and there's like a 6 minute one. 6 minutes. Why? Because a minute I have to explain it a bit, but then it's like there's a sequence of a few very short things. But ideally, if you do it on yourself, you know, after every 45 minutes or 20 minutes, just a minute, just you just ignore, like, listen, I did this. Even if it's something very small, even if you wrote one paragraph, hell yeah. Because you help. It's like the problem is we want to do too big. Want to write an entire chapter in a day? No, you write a paragraph. Because when you start to install those micro habits, it are micro wins. Micro wins create serotonin and will help you to drive forward. It stimulates your nervous system to go forward, to take more action. That's why micro habits work, because it leverages the way the body functions optimally. Yeah. So yeah, and then for example, the pleasure scanning, you can sit if you want. We can do it now.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do one.
All right. So just hang back a little bit, but make sure your feet are really firmly planted in the floor.
Yeah.
And now I want you to take a very deep breath in, an inhalation. Hold your breath. Squeeze all your muscles. 1, 2, hard. 3, 4, 5. Now breathe out, relax, and close your eyes. And now start to notice in your body that every time you breathe out, notice how it's a natural function of your body that when you breathe out, your muscles start to relax. It is because it's a link to your parasympathetic, your relaxation response. And every time you breathe in, slowly and deeply, it feels as if a kind of calming light energy comes inside, spreads. Now I want you to scan your entire body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. From the top of your head to the tips of your fingers. And I want you to really feel pleasure. I want you to notice what different kinds of pleasures you can find. You can go sequential. Go now first to your little pinky toes and feel how it feels inside. What often happens is that people notice very subtle ecstasy in there, as if it's like micro orgasm, which is always there, which is fantastic because it's true. Now go toe per toe per toe. Really add your awareness of the pleasure in every toe. Now bring yourself to connect with your entire feet, the soles of your feet, the top of your feet, your ankles, your heels. From the outer layer of your skin to the depths of your bones. You notice the difference. And now take your time to go slowly, caress your entire body with your awareness and really feel how good it can feel to just focus on that pleasure now. And really focus into your legs, your arms, your hands, shoulders, your head, your lips, and if you can lick it and just feel how good it feels, just because you're sitting there. Allowing yourself to feel that wonderful pleasure becoming stronger and stronger. Now go down over your spine as if somebody's caressing your spine. You might feel a tingle, you might not, but just notice what it feels like. And then go down to your chest, your nipples perhaps, and then lower over your belly. And I go to that pleasure center that is so powerful, your entire hip region, your pelvic floor, and everything else in this neighborhood. Good, and I want you to take your entire body into account and really notice if the pleasure is stuck, if it's moving, or perhaps it's stuck in some place and moving in other ones. And I want you to take 3 deep, slow breaths, and I want you to notice and imagine that every time you breathe in, you get a light that represents pleasure. Every time you breathe in, as if it's filling your entire body with that life-giving energy. And every time you breathe out, all the nonsense just leaves your body now, leaving more space for more pleasure to flow in. Good. Now, soon I will count from 5 to 1, and with every count, you're going to feel more and more energy. But that pleasure will stay with you, and you will start to notice it throughout the day in random moments. Like, oh, how that feels good. Just because you're alive. And what will happen now with every count, you will double your energy levels, but also it might double, like with some, actually, most of my clients, it might double that pleasure in your body. As if you're turning up the heat. In 5, double it. 4, feel the energy through your body. Feel how calm, soothing, and electric you feel. 3, 2, 1. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and feel fantastic.
Oh man, I feel good.
That's a 5 minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I had this light inside of me like this and like burning this kind of heat. And like the more and more when you said 5 and 4, I was like, this kind of Iron Man lights that you get in the middle here.
Yeah. It's different with everybody. It's so interesting. Your body knows how to do that.
Mm.
Like, listen, like I have clients that with women that were really go-getters, but so tense that they were inorgasmic. They were unable to have orgasms, and just doing this and some other exercise and some deeper hypnotic things, whereby the cause gets taken away. All of a sudden, they're orgasmic again. And they can have it. I had clients that had it when there was a beautiful song. All of a sudden, the vibrations of the song made her orgasm. It's like it's really something fantastic. I just it just popped up, and all of a sudden, I started to use it, and people really, yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. Of course, I put a few hypnotic suggestions in, so that's why you feel it hard. But so now my website is going to be launched, I think, next week, and then there is also a masterclass where I explain everything that I explain here, but much more detail. And then, because I believe that many people need to have this.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, because not everybody's in the position to work with me. I'm not the cheapest, but I like the world needs it more than ever. Like, what is going on? Like people fear their health, people fear their livelihoods have been taken away, and a lot of our enjoyment has been confined. Like, so we need to generate a tool so we can take this extremely stressful situation and turn that into a win, turn that in a catalyst to transform our lives. I truly believe this. Yeah, I'm really that's my mission. I want to help people to, stop being afraid of intensity. For example, if your heart is broken, instead of like I used to do, when my heart was broken, I went wild after all of the women. But then, like lately, I'm just when something like that happens, something very emotional, I say, okay, let's feel it. And what is really interesting is when you really start to feel how it feels in your body, it's not as scary anymore because it doesn't really hurt that much. The hurt is very much a label that people on. It's energy that is moving, and when you really pay attention, you can feel it becomes like bittersweet because again, it's the other side of the coin. I only can feel pain because I have the privilege to feel real bliss. And so that like I found this out with my father. Like my father died when I was 21. It was really destructive to me. From the moment I really started to process it, I really realized how lucky I was because I saw all these people that have not a beautiful father figure like I had. He was very strong, but super strong and firm, but really affectionate and really warm, happy, always laughing, even when he was really chronically and deadly ill. And he was the best example ever. So I'm really, I miss him every day. But the realization that I had the privilege to experience such connection is was beautiful, and I want people to do the same thing. Like it's all part of of the entire whole.
Yeah.
When I was in Bali, there were a lot of people that I say they're all a bit trapped in the spiritual rat race. So they come from the real rat race, they think, spirituality is it, and do exactly the same thing. Striving, going, but not being. When I have that, then I will get there. Then everything will be fine. No, that's not how it works. Because when you, and what you then often see is then they deny everything that's a bit more dark. And they talk about shadow work, but nobody really does. They talk about doing shadow work. But then when negative things come up, they have to do breath work to make sure they feel good again immediately. No. Like in the traditional tantric sense, and I really like that philosophy. And not that I mean, I'm not wise enough to know if that's all true or not, but I love the philosophy because they say everything is holy, is divine. Everything from beautiful flowers to the most beautiful women to shit. It's all part of that same creation. And it's creation, sustenance, and that's what most of the spiritual people are focusing on. But then destruction is part of that holy zone. And when you learn to embrace all those three things, then in my eyes, it's much more fully lived life because when you're not afraid of the darkness and of the destruction anymore, and you really learn how to embrace that as a natural fact of your life, when you start to realize, like in a certain sense, we're always completely alone. Nobody can share our experience like we do. We can try to communicate it, but that's all it is. Then we start to feel a deep connection with everything because everything and everyone is like that, is singular and connected at the same time. But you can't get to that real, I always say like an ideal relationship is somewhere where you're separate together. Because what I see a lot is this, like people come in a relationship, say, oh, I like you, I'm beer, you're wine. Let's do some wine with my beer, add some beer with your wine. And on a certain moment, you have like this mixture that nobody wants to drink. No, it's no kidding. You're practically, fucking yourself. Who wants to do that? I don't. So you have to then learn to step around. So there are three options. All people separate, but because they're so intertwined, they intertwine. So they have fights and a lack of desire, or boredom. That's mostly your fights or fights and passionate sex, but really destructive emotionally, or boredom and no sex. Why? Because you lost yourself. So you're compromising yourself all the time until you have the choice between yourself and your relationship. So then most people separate, but then they're both ruptured because they're so enmeshed. A second option is that people do this. They're just gonna lean on each other, but with an emotional distance. But that suppresses the nice feelings too. So then the boredom becomes even worse, and you feel dissociated and alone. The third option is that you learn how to stand on your own two feet, because then there's this space where fire of desire can burn. And when the fire of desire can burn, will have this pulsation, which is orgasmic. It's like metaphorically, but it's true. You come closer to yourself, you grow. Come closer to each other, you grow. And then, for example, I will push you to do this, and you stand on your own two feet. I have no choice. I cannot lean on you anymore. This is This is what you do.
Mm.
And then, because then desire comes back, because when you need each other, you're not chosen, you're not wanted. You know that the other person is using you for their personal validation or for whatever need.
Mm.
But if you're here on your own 2 feet, you know that every moment, if if he or she chooses something else, they are much more empowered to walk away because they don't need you anymore.
Mhm.
Which is scary, of course, if you're used to this.
Yeah.
At the same time, when they then choose, they're also much more able to stay here while you're being, playing out old, unprocessed things, and you do the same thing. So when you get this, you don't need. That's why I work with a lot of people individually, and the relationships improve tremendously. Because when you do this, it can't happen because he's stepping back. So there are two options: they fall on their face, they look for somebody else to hang on. But more often than not, because we have generally attracted people to have the same level of psychological development as ourselves. When I stand up, you'll have almost no choice but to stand up yourself. But it's not easy. It's in that intensity, in that conflict. That is the secret of long-term relationships, of long-term passionate relationships and intimate relationships. Because when you're really intimate, truly intimate, that means that is something different than closeness. People confuse the two.
Mm.
Closeness is spending time together. It's like becoming an us in that moment. That's what people think that's intimacy, but that's not intimacy. Intimacy is being true to yourself and reflecting yourself, sharing yourself as you are without adding anything it. With respect for the other person, but with respect for yourself. And being able to confront yourself and your dark sides and your fun sides in the presence of somebody that you love, that is pressuring you to play into their games and the other way around. But it's not easy, of course, and for sure with the entire Hollywood bullshit, you know, we don't get taught this. Like in ancient days, the system was set up like that. You couldn't separate, so you had to. So those three things happened. All people stood up, all people dissociated, but separation was impossible. So that. So it was this, or, and here, yeah, it just stayed really, really destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I had never thought of that, or no one had ever mentioned it. But as you said, that's probably because we're in modern times, and some of those ancient knowledge, or some of that ancient knowledge, just get lost now, and that's such a shame, because it's not that it was better then or that it's better now, but there's something to be used from the past in the present, and something to be used in the present as well. But your mission statement, what you said before, that is beautiful, and we're really going to work to get that out there, and we'll be sure to add all the links and everything, because this is something that I feel at least everyone should be in the know, in the loop of. Yeah, what do you think, Matt? Do you think?
Man, I feel like I learned so much here. I'm just like, I got my light here. Still, I got the heat. I wanna work out after, and I learned so much from you. Thanks so much for sharing all that for free. That's super. That's just awesome. And I think you got a well-deserved promo time. So whatever you want to promote, your masterclass, all that, feel free to give us the link. We put everything in the description. It's your time.
Cool. Thank you, brothers. Yeah, I will share my website with you, and the masterclass and the renewed version I think is going to go live somewhere this weekend of this week. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. So thank you, guys.